Okay, good afternoon, everyone. A very warm welcome to this live event for parents. So firstly, once again, thank you for joining. A very happy new year to all of you. I hope you're all keeping safe and well in these, once again, very strange and difficult times we find ourselves in. As you know, a number of students and staff have been affected by COVID. I'm sure your families have as well. And I really do hope and pray that anyone who's ill will be very well soon, and no one has been seriously affected or worse, and you are all in our thoughts and prayers at this very difficult time. Okay, so the way I'll structure the meeting is I just want to go through three main sections with you. So the first is an update about where we are in terms of the closure and the delivery of education. Secondly, the latest position on exams, and you'd have heard the Secretary of State probably speaking in Parliament today. And then also, which is less relevant now, but the COVID testing arrangements, which we will have in school and have started preparations for. But I'll say why that's less relevant now in a moment. So I'll just talk fairly briefly. I've written to you several times, and a lot of this information is already included, but some people it's a better forum to discuss things in. So I'll go through all of those things quite quickly, and then if you want to put any questions in the Q&A box, our Vice Principal, Chris Hall, is in the background, and he will group your questions together, read them out at the end, and I'll do my best to respond to as many parents' questions as possible. Can't do every individual thing that comes up, and please refrain from raising questions about your child's specific circumstances. That's probably better addressed by their form tutor or head of year, but it's more to give information that's probably beneficial to all families. Okay. Also on the call, we've got one of our assistant principals, John Maybury. His specialist field is teaching and learning. So if there's anything specific about the delivery of lessons at the moment, he'll be here to help us out as well. Okay, so just an update about where we are. We're obviously expecting to come back after the Christmas break and get schools open as normal. Obviously, we're all disappointed with the announcement. We knew that there would be a partial school closure, but we've now found out that that's a full closure, or virtually full closure, for all pupils, including year 11 and 13. The government, which I agree with, have been at pains to state that this is not because schools are dangerous places for pupils. Young people are very, very, very unlikely to be affected by this virus, but it is a way of containing the spread of the virus, particularly the new variant, which has obviously spread very rapidly through the community, and schools were really the last thing to close. So when the Prime Minister said that there would be further restrictions, the only thing that could have gone really was schools, so we anticipated the announcement that was made on Monday. One of the key differences is from last year is that we suspect this will be a more limited time of closure. So the February half term has been suggested that schools could start to return after the February half term. I think that's probably quite realistic. I also doubt, though, that it will be a full return of students. I think there's likely to be some sort of phased or rotated return. I am speculating, but I think it's unlikely the government will go from no children in school to everyone back in one go, because it will cause a number of cases to start creeping up again. But we won't know about that yet, and we will find out more as time goes on. But I do think we are in a very different position to last year. We know a lot more about this virus. We know a lot more about who it affects more than others. This time last year, we were very much in the dark. We have testing, and in March last year, you couldn't get a COVID test. Now tests are readily available. We are far better at delivering education remotely. It was new to everyone back in March, but now we're quite experienced and I think quite good at it. And also there is light at the end of the tunnel because the vaccine is being rolled out, and that will obviously make a huge difference to everyone's lives when that rollout process accelerates and the government can start lifting restrictions. So although it's a very difficult time and no one wanted to be in this position in education, I do feel that it's a very different situation from last year, and I'm optimistic that it will be over relatively quickly. And the government has still made the commitment that opening schools is their priority. So I think we can see schools opened before pubs, restaurants, non-essential shops and so on. Hopefully that's a priority to you as well. It is to me, but yeah, I think we'll see schools coming back as soon as a window is open from a public health perspective. The school is still open to an extent, so all support staff are in school, quite a large number of teaching staff are in school. We are open to children of key workers, and if you are one of those key workers in one of those categories and you want your child to work in school, just let the school office know, schooloffice@baconscollege.co.uk, and we can allocate you a place. We've got about 30 students working in school every day, and that will fluctuate up and down a little bit depending on demand, but we are very much open for students that need to work here. We are also open and able to have students who we deem as vulnerable. That could be a whole list of different reasons why they might be in that category. But one thing that's new in the guidance this year is that does include students that don't have access to good quality IT at home, that don't have a quiet space to work, that aren't engaging remotely, for example. So if we do identify students that are really struggling to work at home, then they are eligible to be invited into school to work here as well, which I think is a very sensible move. So we are open to those students, and will continue to be through the closure. Just in terms of laptops and IT access, we've given out well over 150 laptops to students that need them. We've got over 150 more being delivered in school this week. We've got about, I think 80 odd went out in the last couple of days. So we have got really good access to IT equipment. We've also got Wi-Fi dongles, I think that's the term. So if families haven't got reliable Wi-Fi access at home, we can give them a dongle which will get them onto 4G. I'm really extending my expertise here, but they will get access through the network, and the school will pay for that data. So the message there is access to IT should not be a barrier to learning for anyone, whereas last March, and I know from my family experience, we were all scrabbling around to use the laptop or the tablet or who could use it at the time. That's not a problem anymore. So if you need to use your laptops for your work and you've got multiple children at school that need to have a laptop during the day, if you need another one, ask for another one and we will get one to you. Okay, so please don't feel you need to be sharing and allocating time for various people in the household to use devices. Free school meals, so we are sending out vouchers for free school meals, so we're allocating £2.50 a day, which is in line with what the free school meals price is in school. So if they haven't been sent out to you already, they will be imminently. The government will be rolling out a national scheme, which last time was operated through Edenred, which many of you will be familiar with already. So when that happens, it will replace our own one. But in the meantime, we will send you out the £2.50 a day vouchers. If children are working in school at the moment, we have been providing meals in school, but it's a really, really tiny number and doesn't justify the kitchen staff being in. So at some point in the next couple of days, we'll let you know that we expect students in school to bring in a packed lunch. And if the children are in receipt of a free school meal voucher, obviously they can use that voucher to purchase the food to bring in for their packed lunch. So that will all work out as well. We are trying to limit the number of people that need to be on site from a staffing perspective, and we don't really want the kitchens open and people travelling into work if it's not necessary. And in terms of teaching and learning, you know, we are doing much better than we were back in March when it was all new to us. So we've got off with a full timetable of live lessons. What we are really trying to do in really simple terms is replicate a normal school day in the remote world. So right from tutor time in the morning through 6 lessons a day, whether they're practical subjects or other subjects, we want to try and really replicate the school day while students are at home learning remotely. So we can have a full timetable of live lessons. We expect students to log on to those live lessons and engage every single lesson. We'll be following up with either non-attendance in those live lessons or students that aren't completing work satisfactory in those live lessons as well. So this is a difficult situation for everyone. It's not what we wanted to be in, but students here have got a great opportunity. My children at primary school, they don't get any live lessons whatsoever. I spoke to a couple of heads in South London. They haven't started with live lessons. They're planning to, but they haven't started yet. You know, I think we're doing really well here. And if students do, you know, get out of bed, get motivated, log on, they really can experience as close as possible to being in school while they're working remotely. Part of the reason we're so keen to have the live lessons and replicate the school day, one, it's better for learning than anything else we've got to offer at the moment, but it's the routine. It's the routine and the organisation. If students know they're going to get up and they're going to meet their tutor at 8:25 or 8:35, whatever time they've got to meet them, and then meet their period 1 tutor at 9 o'clock, if they know that, that helps with the routine. It's hard being at home and trying to organise your day, you know, organise your workload. If you know, teenagers have never done that before, that's a hard thing to do. So we take that organisation off them by creating the school day for them. So hopefully the students have engaged well so far and you found it beneficial to have that structure to their day. We want it to take some of the pressure off parents as well, because once they're set up and logged on, you know, really as long as they log on to each lesson at the right time, you know, parents don't need to be sitting over them to make sure that they are doing the work, because the teacher will be directing the work they do. What we would ask is that where possible, they have a quiet space to work. Again, if that is really impossible, then it's perfectly feasible for students to come into school and just remove what we've called weapons of mass distraction. So any social media, you know, if they're trying to do some work and their friends are pinging them on what are these things called now, Instagram and those type of things, you know, if they're going off in the background, that's not good. So remove all of that sort of stuff so the students can just concentrate on their work. The school day finishes at 3 o'clock plus homework time, so there is plenty of time to interact with their friends, but the quality time we get with their teacher is precious and needs to be used wisely. I'm sure there'll be some questions about teaching and learning in a moment, and like I say, Mr. Maybury is here to help you with some of those calls. If there's any general themes about access to those lessons, we can help you out now. If there's ever a situation where technology fails and students can't access the live lesson, or the teachers can't get in, or you know, these things do go wrong from time to time, there are so many resources that the students have got available, like Seneca, Heggerty, Sparks, Bedrock. You know, just log on to one of those things, My GCSE, whatever they might be. All the students have got logins to these packages. You know, log in, do the work on those. You get instant feedback, you know, and they're great packages that just weren't available a little while ago. Okay, so that's a bit about teaching and learning and the current situation. In terms of exams, which I'm sure you're all keen to know about, the first thing is the January exams that are due to occur for us. It's next week. In some schools, they happen today. Very unhelpfully, and the DfE said that schools can basically decide if they want to go ahead with those vocational January exams. That was stated quite late last night. There's lots of factors about whether the exams go ahead or not. I'm holding out until tomorrow to make that final decision about whether all the exams or none will go ahead, or just some subjects in some year groups. There's strong arguments either way, and I'm mindful of them, but I need to just consider whether that goes ahead or not. It may even be between now and then the DfE make a decision that either all schools should do them or no schools should do them, which is we would prefer that. We'd prefer the decision to be made that either they do go ahead or they don't go ahead, rather than leaving it up to individual schools. So if you've got students that should be doing exams now in January, just please tell them not to worry. The decision will get made tomorrow and we'll communicate to you. I don't think either way any student will be disadvantaged. I really don't. Whether they do the exams or not, I think it will all work itself out. And that's part of the reason why it's a difficult call, because I don't think there's a very heavily weighted argument to say that we must do one thing or the other. So just hold fire for a little bit, but don't be anxious about it. It will work itself out, and I've got every confidence no one will be disadvantaged. So in terms of A-levels and GCSEs, then it was announced early on in the week when the announcement of school closure happened that A-levels and GCSE exams wouldn't occur this summer. That's now been confirmed by the Prime Minister and Secretary of State. So we can expect that no A-level and GCSE exams will take place this summer. That includes ASs as well for the small number of students that would have done those. So year 11 and 13 now know with certainty they won't be doing exams in the summer period, and also a small number of year 12s. It hasn't been confirmed how vocational qualifications will be awarded in the summer. That will come out soon, but there'll certainly be no exams towards those qualifications in the summer, but there may well be coursework components that need to be completed as usual. The Secretary of State made quite a long statement in Parliament today, and I listened to virtually all of it. He has made it clear that grades will be awarded by teacher assessment, but there wouldn't be any algorithm similar to, you may recall, was used last year, which failed and had to revert to centre assessed grades. So GCSE and A-level results will be awarded by teacher assessment, but there will be some form of moderation, we suspect, so that the grades can be awarded fairly, so that there's a level playing field, so that there's a degree of comparability between school to school. So that detail will come out in the next few weeks, but teacher assessments will be the way forward. For year 11 and 13, so this means that we do expect those year groups to come back probably shortly after the half-term break. It's really important that students are working hard all the way through from now until the final moments when we say that the grades have been awarded, because we will need to give a teacher assessed grade for all of those students. And in order for us to do that fairly and equitably, we need to look at all the work the students are doing, look at their performance, look at their progress. What we don't want to do is look at one snapshot in time. For example, the November mocks or the March mocks, when they come back in after half term, we expect to be able to do the March mocks. We don't want to look at just one snapshot and say that's it, that's the best we've got. We want to really triangulate all of the data we've got on all of the students and come out with the fairest possible teacher assessed grades we can. We were in a similar position last year with last year's year 11 and 13, so we're quite adapted to doing this now. What we will do is we will be fair, and this is not an opportunity for students to think, oh, that's great, the teachers are going to give me just great grades. It's not going to work like that. We will give you the grade that we really think you would have got had you done the exam. It would be completely unfair and immoral to just give everyone high grades because we've got the opportunity to. I'm sure there'll be a smoothing or moderation exercise that we have to go through with the exam boards that will prohibit that, but that's just completely morally the wrong thing to do. So you need to be working hard, you need to be demonstrating the progress you're making so that your teachers can make their best informed professional judgment that they can. Okay, and the last sort of real agenda item was testing, and I'm talking about COVID testing now rather than obviously subject testing. When students were due to come back off the Christmas break, a key pillar of the government enabling students to come back to school was that schools would be able to COVID test the students in school. On Monday, it was Monday. On Monday, we received a delivery of over 2,000 COVID testing kits. So they're in school, and school staff are being trained as we speak on how to use and administer those tests. There are other schools that have been pilots for this for the last couple of months, and we've been to visit those to see how it operates. These are not the tests that you might have had if you've gone to a COVID testing centre or you've had one sent out by post. The ones that you've done so far are what's called PCR tests, and the results go off to a lab to be processed. The ones we've got in school are called LFD tests, that means lateral flow device, and the result from a lateral flow device displays itself within about 30 minutes. So the idea is that when students are in school, we can test them and get the result within 30 minutes. If the test result comes back as positive, that student will be sent away to isolate, and they'll do the PCR test, which gets sent off to a lab just as a final validation of that result. The reason why I'm not going to go into this in too much detail, and there is a detailed presentation to take parents through, because I'm sure you've got a huge number of questions about it because it's all new, but the students won't be back until after half term in all likelihood. However, we do have a number of students in school, so from next week we would like to start doing testing of staff in school and the students that are in school at the moment. If you are affected by that because your child is in school, we'll contact you, we'll give you all the information you need, we've got to get the consent forms out to you and so on, and we hope to be able to start rolling out that testing as of next week. The main systems that we're going to go through are three main things with that testing. One, what is called mass testing. So that's when all students come back to school. We test every student in every year group, and then they go off and do their normal day. There may now be no need for that testing when it actually happens, because the intention was that we test them when they come off the Christmas break, but all students will have been required to isolate for over 2 months by then anyway, and it's quite a disruptive process to go through. So we'll decide or be guided on whether mass testing will actually go ahead. The second pillar is testing of staff. So clearly lots of staff have been affected by COVID. Obviously that's a concern for staff and their families, and no one wants to get ill or pass it on to other family members. And also it's very disruptive, because if the teachers are absent, we just can't function normally as a school, and we may have to send students home because we can't cover the lessons. So staff are eligible to be tested every week in a similar way to healthcare staff and ambulance staff and so on. They do that already. And the third aspect to it is what's called serial testing. So whereas, as I think virtually all of you will be aware or been affected, that if we identified a positive COVID case in school, we would identify the close contacts of that person. It's normally around 20 to 40 people, and then we would send those contacts home to isolate for 10 days. So clearly that's very disruptive from an educational point of view. It's very disruptive for you as parents as well. Serial testing would mean that once we've identified those contacts, they get COVID tested in school every day for 7 days, and which enables them to stay in school and stay in lessons, and give us reassurance that they haven't actually developed COVID. So there's quite a lot probably to take in there, and when actually the COVID testing starts rolling out to a larger number of pupils that we've got in school, I'll take you through this in a lot more detail and answer any questions that you might have. So they're the three things that I really wanted to go through with you. Hopefully you've popped lots of questions in the chat box, which we'll go through in a minute. I think one thing, if you can pass on the message to children, and I know you're doing this, we want to get back to normality as soon as possible. We want to get schools open as soon as possible. And it's really important that everyone plays their part in that. And the part we all have to play in that is staying at home. We're not asked to do anything heroic. We're asked to stay at home. And when this happened back in March, it had a dramatic effect on the spread of the virus, and that's what we want to achieve this time. And I make this point to students every time we speak to them. You know, you may be young, you may want to go out, you may want to meet your friends, you may not think you're going to be affected by this virus, but you've got to play your part and stay indoors. And if you can pass that message out to everyone, please, we can all get back to a degree of normality as soon as possible. Okay, thank you. So I'm going to stop there. Mr. Hall is in the background, furiously reading away at your Q&As. So if you want to unmute yourself, Chris, and start bringing them up to us.
Yeah, thanks. The first question is really about how do parents check they're eligible to be classified as a key worker, and where they can find that information. And if they are eligible, how do they let the school know that they can send their children?
Yep, thank you. So there is the key worker guidance. I could probably send the link out in the next letter I send. If you literally Google key worker list or school key worker list or something like that, it will come up. So there's a list of key workers. It involves anyone working in education, anyone working in healthcare, anyone now involved in EU transition as well. It's been expanded to include people that work in financial services and banking. I believe essential food supply and deliveries are on there as well. So it is quite wide and encompassing. Just Google key worker or school provision key worker, something like that, and the list does come up really easily. And if you fit into one of those categories, you need to email schooloffice@baconscollege.co.uk, schooloffice@baconscollege.co.uk, and we'll find you a place. If you have any trouble, phone the school or email me directly, j.wilson@baconscollege.co.uk.
And linked to that, I know we've discussed this in person, but clarity about whether one parent needs to qualify as a key worker or two parents, because I know that some parents have been having some difficulty with some nurseries and childcare providers saying that two parents need to be key workers before we can send their children in.
Yep, it's 100% one parent, 100% one parent. So I've had to go through this with my children's primary school because they were saying to some families that both parents have to be key workers. The DfE have confirmed with no ambiguity it's one parent only. So if you are one parent who's a key worker, then your children can come to Bacon's and get a key worker place. If you've got other children in primary schools and they're insisting on two parents being key workers, that's absolutely not true. It's one parent.
Thank you. The next question is, how do they let the school know if they need a laptop or dongle? I'm assuming it'll be the same email address as the one you've just mentioned.
Yep, schooloffice@baconscollege.co.uk. Sam and Amy are in the office every day and they're always fielding calls and taking emails from families. Just contact them and they will sort you out.
Next question is about online resources. Is there a central list available for every subject of online resources? You mentioned a few earlier on, like Seneca and Bedrock. Is there a central list available on the website or can be emailed out to parents where they can access or know what online resources are available for every subject?
It's a good point, actually, because things have evolved quite quickly. I think last year we did produce a collated list of all the different resources that are out there. What I'll say I'll do is in the next day or two, we will put that list together of everything that's available with all the links so it can take you straight to it. That's not an onerous task, and we will get that out to you in the next couple of days so parents have got a record of it. I'm certain on the website in the C19 section there's the list that we would have used previously, but there's certainly more that we can add to it since that time. So I know Mr. Mabry is looking at me and listening, so if you can get onto that, please, sir, and we can get that out in the next couple of days.
Yeah, we have distributed something already earlier on in the year, but we can by all means update that and send it out again probably tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. And the question maybe for both of you, a query's been raised about the consistency of how live lessons are delivered and informed. If you take a look at the comment box there, you will see that there's a comment that is inconsistent, and there's some teachers are using Show My Homework, Outlook, and Teams, and it's a bit inconsistent, maybe a bit confusing and a bit kind of last minute rush for students in the mornings. Can you clarify how live lessons are being organised and administered so that students are not missing out on their learning?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Just John, before you take over there, John, I'll let Mr. Mabry field this one. It's a really good point. If we can do anything better, then do feed that back to us. You know, we're trying as best we can in school, but this is all still, you know, an evolving process. We don't see what's going on in your homes. So if we can do anything to make it better, then really feed that in and we'll do what we can to improve and to help. Mr. Mabry, do you want to take over?
Yeah, just to kind of build up on that, we obviously have had a few new members of staff who weren't present for the live teaching we did last summer term, who are still kind of laying the ropes. The way the situation unfolded over the last few days happened quite quickly. What should be happening, and again, this is something we can remind staff of, is all the live lesson details should be uploaded to Show My Homework. In addition to that, the same live lesson details should be emailed via Outlook. So there's essentially two sets of instructions which will guide how to join the same live lesson. So Show My Homework and also via Teams and Outlook, but I can clarify that with staff tomorrow. It could be that we also need to remind staff to send out the Teams invites more promptly or earlier on as well. If it does sound like it's a bit last minute, I can't actually access the chat to see what the questions are, but again, that's something that we can work on very, very quickly, definitely.
Yeah, I think that's one of the issues, John, is that I think a lot of students are getting invites during their lessons, during the day when it's already happened, and it would be quite useful, I think, if those invites were sent out either, you know, the previous day when the school day's finished, or early in the morning before their lessons have begun. Yeah,
absolutely. I think that's something that we can resolve quite quickly. So I'm confident about that. But thank you, and apologies for that. That's something that we can sort out for you, definitely.
Thanks. Before you move on from that one, I might. I'm just looking at Ray as well, our trusty IT genius, about whether students' calendars can be automatically populated with their lessons. I'm not quite sure if that's possible, but that may be something we could look at. No, he's shaking his head. Okay.
Yeah, and then apart from that, I mean, there was quite a few people asking that same question. Just a thank you for the live lessons that are being produced already, and an acknowledgement of what we're doing. So thank you very much for that comment, and thank you for acknowledging what we're trying to do.
Yeah, can I just come in there? And I think it was a bit of a red line for us, really. We were so keen to deliver as full a timetable as possible of live lessons. We wanted every lesson, every year group to have a live component to it. Still work to be done. I think, as Mr. Wilson said earlier on, we are ahead of the curve a little bit, but there's always room for improvement. And I thank you for the acknowledgement as well, and we'll continue to strive to get even better.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, I put in a few links for parents as well. One is a link about internet providers that are providing subsidised data or free data in some cases, which might be very useful for some families. And also the announcement from the BBC yesterday, which indicates the broadcasts that they're going to start from Monday. For secondary students, that's going to be mostly on BBC Two, but it looks like they're going to radically expand their GCSE bite-sized provision over the next couple of weeks and months as well. So take a look at the links that I've put in the Q&A feature, and hopefully that'll help you out if you need some support at home.
Thank you.
And that's it, sir. That's all the questions that we've had.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much, everyone. I'll do another one of these events probably in a couple of weeks. You know, it's obviously an evolving picture. We only find out about things at relatively short notice from the department. We try and get the information out to you as quickly as possible, and we'll endeavour to keep doing that. Thank you very much for all you're doing to help us and to help your children that are at home. I fully understand it's difficult for you trying to juggle work and trying to juggle the students being at home as well. You know, we're all grappling with the same problems, but I am optimistic that it won't be long before we're all back together again, and we can see, God willing, normality returning. So if there's nothing further, just like to thank you all very much for showing up, and keep feeding in those comments to us, and you take care and God bless. Thanks very much, everyone.